Today, I'm taking you for a close-up look at a cutting-edge project, a $2,000 a month AI employee. This project might just blow your mind and could even reshape the future of human labor. Even as we're making this video right now, his own video has already gone completely viral overseas.
Today we are introducing the early preview of Junior.
Nearly 2 million people have seen this product, sparking some very intense debates in the comments. Now, the origin of this project was actually within their own company. It started as an experiment to see if AI could truly integrate into a business. What happens when we give an AI all the info and access, let it learn the company's structure, and have it work intensely alongside humans for a month? Each AI employee has its own name, its own identity, a dedicated computer, and a private email. It can proactively take on tasks and even perform regular check-ins on its own work. Unlike personal assistants like OpenClaw, you can think of Junior as a corporate assistant built right into the company. I remember the founder telling me just one thing. He said, "Ragnar, it's a never going back experience." Meaning once you've actually used an AI employee, you realize there's no going back. It honestly gives me goosebumps. So with these burning questions and a lot of curiosity, I decided to dig deeper. Having worked in the AI space for a long time and seen so many products, I was highly skeptical of these claims, so I gave them a condition. I said I'd look into it, but only if they let me inside their company to observe for real. Surprisingly, they didn't refuse. So as an observer in that environment, I got to witness the real-world interactions between AI and humans. My first impression after joining was that people didn't seem to treat the AI like some cold machine, which was totally unexpected. I thought the messaging would be robotic, but I couldn't tell who was AI and who was human. Everyone was just chatting about various issues. So the first thing I did was sabotage. Late one Friday night, after everyone had logged off, I went to this AI employee. I grilled it for all sorts of private information, but no matter how I asked, it wouldn't reveal anything even slightly sensitive. A few days later, I discovered it could actually use its own email to register and log into different websites, experience the process, and then write feedback on how to improve it. Since it has access to all the site's data, its insights and suggestions are actually valid. It even summarizes these ideas into optimization requirements and takes them directly to the tech team. The engineers were even a bit skeptical, wondering if this really came from an AI or a human. After they double-checked, the AI confirmed that it was indeed its own conclusion. At that moment, I suddenly felt like I was standing in a very unique position. I was witnessing this AI employee firsthand as it tried to step into our human world. So with all these questions, I had to find the person behind it all. Xiang Kun, the CEO and founder of this company. I invited him to my home so we could explore together what the future of AI in our work really looks like. What's its current state? Where are its boundaries? What can it actually do? And what interesting things have they discovered? How will it ultimately change our lives and environment? Let's take a look. Give everyone a brief introduction to Junior.
Before Junior, we actually had a product called Kuse, and Kuse is growing very well right now. Let me give a bit of history. When we were building Kuse, there were many needs for automation. As the user base grew, there were areas we couldn't keep up with. So we hope to use AI to see if we could automate some workflows. We gained a lot of experience during that process. Then at the beginning of this year, because of OpenClaw, we started implementing OpenClaw within the enterprise very early on. We wondered if it could be adapted, so we made many modifications to make it an OpenClaw version, more suitable for team use. After these modifications, this AI became like an employee in our team. We thought, could this experience be turned into a product and offered to others as well? Then we spent about 3 weeks productizing our previous experience and the entire process of using AI and created this product. In short, it's an AI employee. Basically, anything you can do, it can do within the enterprise.
The first time we talked, you told me, "Oh my God, it's crazy."
Right.
Do you remember then?
Yeah, you said, this is crazy.
You said it was a never going back experience. Do you remember which specific moment during your use of Junior suddenly gave you that idea?
The first one was actually when we were solving a problem we'd always wanted to fix, building a CRM that suited us. Since our customer base had grown quite large, we wanted to do some upselling, identify those enterprise clients, and sell them larger team plans. Of course, because It required a lot of coordination among colleagues. At that time, we took our AI employee named Azura and told everyone, hey, we want to build a CRM. I basically gave it a methodological reference. We were using something called Monaco AI CRM at the time. I told Azura, take a look at this methodology. Then we took many of our internal sales-related information and gave it to her. For example, sales notes, email info, and so on, using some anonymized data. A few of us, within just a few hours, created a CRM that was highly customized to our situation. The first thing that really impressed me was that it didn't have a fancy user interface. With other vibe coding, people always say, hey, I'll vibe code a really fancy interface for you. But in this case, it recognized the tool we were currently using, which was just a multi-dimensional table. So it used that table to build the CRM for us, instead of creating a fancy interface that you'd then have to learn how to use. I thought, wow, this is so practical. Looking closely at the content, we could immediately start using this CRM for our work. You just have to give it enough. Data is like, you really have to treat it almost like a person. If you want it to do a truly good job, say, as a salesperson, you need to carefully think about what kind of authority you would actually give a person to do that job well. If you consider it a star employee in sales, you should think about how much content, authority, and data to give it so it can perform better. You'll have a sense that if this person lacks certain data, they won't do certain tasks well. So the consistent principle is to treat it as a person.
So this spreadsheet is for finding these potential leads, and then this AI employee will, since it has an email account, it'll email them on its own to do this outreach, right? And then for the interested users, what's the next step?
Well, it has its own email and can send messages. If you really want to achieve a conversion, a real person still needs to step in because a call needs to be made.
Right.
So there's actually a second aha moment here, which is that looking ahead, I think even making calls could eventually be handled by a junior. Because for my second aha moment, what I did was send it a Zoom link and have it join the meeting for me.
It can actually join.
It did. I said, we're having a meeting, and it said, if you're meeting, take me along. How? No way, you can't get in, right? I said I'd send the Zoom link, and it said it could figure out a way. It used some tool and said it would send a bot in, its own bot.
I see.
In that version, it didn't speak. It just recorded the meeting from inside. Because previously the approach was to use a separate note-taking method to record the meeting and get the transcript.
Right.
And then it would store that into its context for future use or for later use. But once it figured out this method, we could just give it the meeting link directly and it could join. I haven't released this version yet, but it can actually participate in meetings. It's mentioned in the launch video, but we haven't fully launched this version yet. It shouldn't be long before this feature is supported, allowing it to join Zoom. Then it can discuss things with you internally within your team, and then it can handle sales externally. That's why I say that while it currently manages outbound work and humans still handle the conversion part, in the future, it could potentially take over all initial phone communications. There are several shifts here. Previously, its note taker was just a note taker.
Right.
Yeah, just recording the work for you. With Rin as a participant syncing meeting content, everything else it does will change accordingly because it has the meeting's context. You could sync it in other ways, but that's clearly a hassle. Now it's all integrated. So you have an AI employee that can analyze, join meetings to gather context, and even participate in discussions to give you real-time input. Sometimes human meetings aren't very productive, you know?
Right. And it's really interesting how you've made the AI employees so human-like. I see they have avatars and their own names. What was the thinking behind doing that?
There are two aspects. One is technical and the other is about setting the scene. First, once it has its own identity, like its own email, we'll even give it a phone number later. It can then access more places that people go. Many places online require you to have a stable email address to enter using your identity. Without one, you're basically limited to just reading a website's landing page, and you can't really do much else. Some sites might even say, I cannot do this because I don't have an identity, or they'll ask for your email. If you give them your email, there's an issue. There's no distinction between us. I'm just your avatar. That's like a personal assistant, but in a business setting, you don't want that. You want it to have its own independent identity. Whether it's registering accounts or reaching out to clients, an independent identity makes corporate permission management much simpler. Secondly, we really want people to see them as human beings, which is why we use these photos. Treating them as human isn't just some marketing positioning game. In practice, we've found that when you see them as human, your interactions and the permissions you grant them change. The depth of the data you feed it might be different. The speed at which you onboard it is also different, which ultimately has a huge impact on how effective it is for you. So we strongly want to guide everyone to treat it as an independent colleague. It's not anyone's avatar. Because of its independent identity, there's so much more it can do. That's why we provide these things that we call their own identity.
As mentioned before, if I were to hire this junior, what would the onboarding process be like on their first day? How would they actually go about their work?
If a person joins a company, what kind of state should they be in for you to think they're someone you want to keep, right? On their first day, a good junior joining a company should, for example, be prepared. Say they join your company and say, hey, I've looked at your website and what the company is doing now and what's been done before. I've also looked up some info on my colleagues, right? Maybe they checked LinkedIn or Instagram to see who their co-workers are and how they can help, given what the company is currently working on. Then they'd join the company's Slack and read through the existing group chats. After reading those histories, they'd establish how everyone's work is interconnected. Then they would understand the company's organizational structure in more detail. The first day is really about learning about the company, right? It's about knowing what you are supposed to do, understanding the basic division of labor, and seeing how people work together and collaborate with each other.
Is it common for an employee to chat with Rin one-on-one in the company right now?
Very common. Everyone just chats with it one-on-one. It's more efficient. Maybe 30% of the relaying of information is done by Rin. For example, if I've been chatting with Rin for a while about, say, a launch or a marketing matter, and I need to pass the conclusion to someone else, there are two ways. I could do it myself and write a long message, or I could say, Rin, summarize this for me, and tell them. It'll categorize everything, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, with very clear formatting and concise language, relaying our discussion to the other person, to let them know what's going on.
The concept of agents was actually quite popular a few years ago, right? People were always talking about agents and digital employees. When agents first came out, everyone was building their own. Yeah, but why now? In this period this year, do you think it's fundamentally different from last year?
Actually, the answer is quite simple. It's mainly two things, two major parts, I'd say. First is the progress of the models themselves, especially I think around November or December last year, the agent harness.
How? What does that mean? Agent harness?
For example, the memory system everyone's talking about now, that's one of OpenClaw X's most important contributions. Tool integration, including permission mechanisms and security, heartbeats, cron jobs, those things, scheduling mechanisms, all these things put together become a system that's better at solving problems in real-world scenarios.
So it's these two things that you think mainly caused the qualitative change?
I believe so, yes.
As mentioned before, Junior will take the initiative to work and claim tasks on its own. So how is that mechanism achieved?
Actually, it's just the heartbeat scheduled inspection task plus a memory system. Like I said, it's scheduled inspections. Is today's work done? Is there anything else to do now? It's not something that's preset and never changes. It might customize its behavioral rules as the depth of use within the company changes. Its memory itself will also help with its being proactive. When a bug report comes in, the memory says, hey, you're in charge of the back end, or you're doing front end, and then I need to give this bug report to you, or report it to him, because it has a set of memories of the organization itself. Besides the heartbeat mechanism for scheduled inspections, plus some of its rules and its understanding of the organizational memory itself put together, it becomes like an employee who proactively reminds you what to do and proactively assigns tasks to the right people.
So you have 2 AI employees in total now?
Before, we might have had 7 or 8. We thought that would work then, but gradually it was split into 2, one internal and one external. You can't use human-like division of labor to limit it, saying it's for dev or it's a PM. We found that just doesn't work.
Hey, that's very interesting. Tell us more, because people might still think, oh, this AI employee is specialized for different roles. But it seems like what you're saying now is a completely different logic.
Right? During our product onboarding, we actually set roles for it. Of course, that's for the sake of humans, because I think at first people couldn't accept that AI can actually do anything. We gave it a division of labor during onboarding so it's easier to understand. But in the process, we also found that if you maintain many AIs, communication between them becomes an issue. Most people also prefer to work with one, because as it gains more context, it understands the organization better and becomes more powerful. People are more willing to talk to it, and then it gains even more context. Now, why split it into internal and external? Because of the hard isolation of permissions. For internal use, it can be given higher permissions like code or development or even some financial permissions. For external use, we need to be more cautious, and the context and integrated data we provide doesn't include the most sensitive information, because you always need to be wary that in an external competitive environment, it might be asked those questions by others.
Okay, we've talked a lot. For instance, if a company is very interested and wants to try it out right away, if I'm that company, what should I do? What's the process? What's the price? What does it look like?
We currently have 2,000 companies on the wait list, but our current capacity is limited. So the current process is you pay $500 to book what's called a discovery call. Then we'll help you with a diagnosis first and tell you how to use it. If you decide you don't want to use it, this $500 will be refunded to you. If you do, then you'll go on this $2,000 plan. Then this $500 becomes part of that $2,000, and then we'll get you onboarded. Then if you ultimately decide to use it, you'll start at a price starting from $2,000.
Suppose while using it, the token count exceeds the limit, but I'd say there's a high probability probability they won't exceed it right at the start?
I think there's a high probability it will. In the process of communicating with customers, I've found one type of customer that isn't suitable, which is those who haven't reached product market fit yet. When your own business is already up and running and has grown quite large, you'll feel that AI is a much bigger help to you. For companies of the same type and scale, once they start applying this way of working, $2,000 basically won't cover it. And also, people might think this is expensive, but users who actually use it generally think it's very
Cheap. Regarding current customers, I heard there were about 2,000 on the waiting list. What's their general profile? What kind of customers
would look for you. Most of them, well, have a certain scale, but aren't particularly large. One-person companies are actually quite rare, for example, 5 to 50 people. Or companies with 10 to 100 people, this situation often occurs because their business is developing rapidly and there's no one to do this new kind of work. At this point, AI coming in would actually be better.
bit? Can you see which industries are currently more
Interested in this area? There's definitely a bit of tech penetration. If you're in a completely traditional industry, it's actually
challenging?
because for us, we only support Slack right now. But there are also some teams in China that actually use Slack. Okay,
Then he thought of a question which is in the end your product. It won't become a platform. It will still be parasitic on existing platforms to do this.
The product development mindset has changed quite a bit compared to the traditional internet. We don't even have much of an interface anymore. Of course, we have a backend, which is a dashboard, but it's not our core product. I don't care if my product is a platform or an entry point. Its way of thinking is still like the previous internet, which was based on a web page or a desktop app. What will happen after that, I can't be entirely sure. The signature of my work software is these 4 words: live towards death. That is, you have to have that kind of like willingness to kill off your own self, this kind of
Kill.
determination
To take yourself out.
before it's possible to create these newer things.
Alright, I think that's about it.
Good.
Let's eat.
Let's go.
Zhang Kun, gently holding a compact little laptop in his right hand.
Working anytime, anywhere, you know? We people from Shenzhen are like this, ready to start working at any time. Anything, anywhere, and I'll be there.
So we've now discovered a company that has completely copied your company one-to-one.
Everything from junior, like it's really a one-to-one replica of everything, and then they have the nerve to put us up there for a comparison.
How much are they? 5,000? Oh wait, no.
It's free, and then 2-minute onboarding and stuff like that.
It's fine. That just means you've really made it big. That's why someone's copying you one-to-one.
Yeah, there will be, because you're very popular now, so some people will act like this.
Have you ever thought about this? If you really succeed, it's like the next chapter of this era might be opened. Have you ever considered this question?
Right, so I think I'm being very serious, which is why we just mentioned, having this non-profit. The impact of AI on real life will definitely be huge and very real. So I feel we also have a responsibility to deal with the consequences. Whether it's good or bad, I think it has a lot to do with how people handle it. If we treat it as a narrative of capitalists enslaving humanity, then it becomes a cyberpunk story.
What's the next step for Junior?
Oh no, I'm done for. I forgot to wear the microphone. I was wondering where it went. Oh man, good thing I noticed early, damn.
Yeah, it's fine. It would have been a disaster if we finished first.